Greetings one and all, and welcome in. I hope you're all having a great day. Now, the timing of this video could not be more perfect because I had planned to record this a few hours earlier, and thankfully I didn't, because news has just dropped that Battlefield 2042 has been delayed by a month to release on November 19th. Despite this, the hype continues to build, especially with the very limited feeding of information to us gamers from DICE and EA, with, as yet, no news on beta or exactly what Hazard Zone is even going to be. But what this has done has created a spike in popularity with the current offering Battlefield 5. There is no doubt that it has been helped by the huge discounts being offered free with Prime Gaming and the continued talk about Battlefield 2042, but the end result is that it now runs regularly in the top 10 concurrent players list on Steam. And on PC, servers are full and plentiful. So it got me thinking, is Firestorm seeing an equally large jump in player count? Is it still alive 2.5 years after it was released? Well, I'm happy to report that the answer is... sort of. Firestorm, for those of you who do not know, was Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode that was designed by Criterion in an attempt to cash in on the BR craze at the time. Released around 7 months after COD's first attempt, which was Blackout, it never really caught on, and despite having some real promise and some interesting concepts, support seemed to be dropped before anything meaningful was ever really added. In short, DICE and EA threw in the towel in this fight very, very early. However, that isn't to say that this mode was bad. In fact, in my opinion, it was quite fun and still is quite fun to this day, despite the fact that there are some obvious and very big flaws, which we will talk about a little bit later. Taking Battlefield 5's great gunplay and putting it in a BR setting was extremely appealing to me, and whilst the fanbase will always be split on whether BF5 was any good or whether or not COD was better, we never got to see them go toe-to-toe on the BR scene. And if the rumours are to be believed, we're not going to see it in 2042 either. This, however, may actually be a good thing, but perhaps that's one for a future video. So I hopped into Firestorm the other day, and to my surprise I was getting put into matches within like 90 seconds of searching. Player counts ranged anywhere from 18 to 45 in my experience, including the occasional match where I was sent to the other side of the world with ping north of about 230. But despite that, the very fact that games existed at all was awesome. Firestorm had a 64 player limit on the servers, and with the huge map that came with it, where there was no respawns, it often made for some fairly long periods where you just wouldn't see anybody. So often these games at lower play counts with like 18 players, they weren't particularly interesting, which unfortunately meant that you had to hot drop, because if you didn't, you just wouldn't see anybody until like the final zones. So it did take a while to put together a video of semi-interesting moments of Firestorm to tag onto this video. So what was good and bad about Firestorm? Well, in the words of Hobbs from Fast 5, let's go for the dessert first. The Battlefield 5 gunplay is absolutely fantastic and it works really well in Firestorm. The guns feel great and it never really feels like one is more OP than the others. In my limited play of the game so far, I have felt like the SMG for the close range battles along with a semi-auto rifle for the slightly longer engagements is the go-to choice for the game at the moment. Graphically, I think it looked great, and the Firestorm itself was even a spectacle. Watching it kind of rip through trees and buildings, leaving them in ruins and rubble, was absolutely amazing. And I'd even go as far to say that if you were trying to outrun the zone, it was actually quite scary hearing that thing behind you tearing through buildings as you're desperately trying to make it to the next zone. The two final points I just wanted to touch on is the fact that almost every building in this game can be blown to pieces and completely levelled, which helps prevent camping, which is a huge win if you ask me. The map itself, whilst too big for the player count that it allows, is by far the prettiest BR map that I've seen in any game. A great reminder that only Battlefield can do great scale and fantastic visuals in equal measure, something that no other game in the Battlefield genre has been able to replicate to date, in my opinion. And now we get to those veggies. We've already mentioned some of them, including the map size against the player count, but the lack of any real weapon modification, even though it may fit the theme of World War II to a point, meant you were stuck with floor loot and whatever attachments it came with. The tiered loot system that you could find on the floor was fine, but I think a trick was missed here to allow for some form of modification system either in the game or before it, such as Warzone's loadout system. And finally, and I know you've been waiting for this one, the worst thing about Firestorm, by not just a country mile, but several countries worth of country miles, is the inventory system. It was the absolute stuff of nightmares. It was overwhelming, it was finicky and unintuitive. Often you would get kills on someone who was standing still just because they were trying to go through the floor loot and work out what they wanted to take and what they didn't, because it was just sprayed everywhere. Simple tasks such as dropping loot or ammo was several clicks too many. There was too much going on in the UI at the bottom right of the system, and it was ridiculous. And to never fix this was one of their biggest flaws. This final point about the inventory system may well have been a huge contributing factor to why Battlefield 5 never really gained any popularity. Another factor, and this is very much my own opinion here, is the fact that it was locked behind the paywall of Battlefield 5 itself. Now, at first, this probably wasn't an issue. Blackout was only available if you bought Black Ops 4, but Battlefield 5 had a very troubled release. The multiplayer was panned early due to game-breaking bugs, glitches and unbalanced weapons. And whilst DICE eventually got on top of those, it took a long time, and they also broke things as they fixed things. This meant that a lot of the dev time got put into fixing the main game, and Firestorm was effectively forgotten about. And by the time Battlefield 5 got to a good point, Warzone was on the horizon. It's also worth noting that there is a good chance that the Battlefield player base wasn't really into this mode in the first place anyway, to filter across to what is an already B-spec mode in the game, and by that I mean Battlefield players are very different to your average COD players. Conquest, large-scale intense battles across large maps is very much the order of the day for your normal Battlefield player, and you just couldn't get that experience in Firestorm. So was Firestorm an attempt to bring in new fans? Possibly. Did it work? Absolutely not. Whilst Warzone has been an unquestionable success despite its recent issues, and Call of Duty Blackout was also a success, Firestorm in comparison had a very brief and uneventful life. Could they have done things any differently? Well, the only thing that may have saved it outside of them not dropping it so quickly would have been to make it free to play once Battlefield 5 had sorted itself out. We have seen a number of games come back from the depths of irrelevancy. Rainbow Six Siege had a huge bounce in players after a very rocky launch, and Apex, whilst it started very well, dipped massively, only to recover again thanks to some amazing content drops. If you can take Firestorm for what it is, there is definitely some fun to be had if you can get into the game. Perhaps a research exercise for DICE if they venture into this genre again with Battlefield 2042. It seems likely that this is to be the last little bounce in popularity that Firestorm will get before it completely dies when Battlefield 2042 comes out, which will be a shame because there is no doubt in my mind that this was a huge missed opportunity. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this look back at Firestorm. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this mode in Battlefield 5, and if you did enjoy this video, please do hit that like and subscribe button for more videos, and we'll see you in the next one.